Hello everyone, welcome to Altdorf, the Imperial City. In today's mod spotlight, Archaon the Ever-Chosen leads an undivided host of Chaos Warriors to despoil and ravage the city of Altdorf, the last bastion of man. He'll be joined by a contingent of Tzeentch warriors led by Sarthoriel, the Everwatcher, and a legion of rotting Nurgle warriors. Karl Franz, Balthazar Gelt, and Volkmar the Grim have taken up defense of the city in this apocalyptic showdown. This 3v3 battle will take place using the Ultimate Chaos mod as well as the Altdorf custom map, both of which can be found in the description below. Will the end times come to Altdorf? Let's find out. And now it is time for the Chaos invasion of the Imperial city of Altdorf. The forces of Chaos are going to be led by Archaon the Ever-Chosen, Sarthoriel the Everwatcher, as well as a Plague Lord of Nurgle. The forces of the Empire are going to be led by Karl Franz, Volkmar the Grim, and Balthazar Gelt, who have all taken up defense of the Imperial city. So let's go ahead and take a look at the different armies, and guys, we can begin the battle from there. So over here at the northwestern gate, we do have the forces of Sarthoriel the Everwatcher, which again are going to be a heavy Tzeentch-focused army. In the front line, he does have a bunch of cultists, and you can actually see that Sarthoriel is actually already casting a spell. So he has an ability, and I want to show you guys this before the battle gets started. Man, look how cool he looks when he's casting. He just looks so happy. He does have this ability called, where is it? The Infernal Gateway, which is a new ability added in the mod. It does cost 25 Winds of Magic, so that is a huge investment. But you can see over here on the far side of the wall, he is going to be targeting the Zintler's Reiksguard, and essentially what it does is it puts a heavy dot on enemy units, and when it does kill them, it does summon Chaos Spawn, which is very cool. I like the thematics of that ability quite a bit. So in the front, we do have Chaos Cultists, which are very similar to Flagellants. They have a slightly higher defensive stats with 20 armor to the 0 of the Flagellants. Their melee attack is lower than that of Flagellants, and they are not unbreakable, but they do also have 19 melee defense, whereas Flagellants have 10. So these guys are a pretty cool kind of middle ground unit. Leading these Cultists in the front, we do have 2 Champions of Tzeentch. So these units are awesome. They do flame attacks, they also do magic attacks, and on top of that, they do have 2 abilities. So they have one, which is called the Tzeentch's Firestorm. So this ability essentially is like the Grand Soulfire, very similar, but just a little bit more thematic in terms of its design. It does also have the Sorcerer's Bolts, which is a single target DPS ability. So it's pretty cool having these like melee lords that have pretty powerful magic abilities. Definitely very accurate for Tzeentch, I would say. In the secondary line, we do have a bunch of cultists with polearms, anti-large, armor piercing. They're going to be backed up by aspiring champions over here, which are in the regular game, so nothing new to look at there. And again, guys, we do have Sarthoriel the Everwatcher, which instead of having Lore of Metal spells right now, he does have Tzeentch magic. So you can see he has the Infernal Gateway, he has the Bolt of Change, he has the Pink Fire of Tzeentch, which essentially like burns the units. It disrupts formations, costs 12 Winds of Magic, but what really is nice for him is he has the Boon of Magic. So every time he casts a spell, he also regenerates a little bit of Winds of Magic. So I like what they did with him in this mod. It's quite a bit of fun. In the back, we have the more elite Tzeentch troops. We have the Warriors of Tzeentch who do both flame attacks and magic attacks. They have a natural ward save of 30% and 20% magic resist. And we do here have the elite Tzeentch troops, and these are the Bringers of Change. So these guys have a bonus first large, 48 weapon strength. They also do cause fear and have magic resist of 50% themselves. Definitely do not want to be targeting them with magic. Over there, we do have some Knights of Tzeentch, which you guys have seen in the previous battles. These guys look quite cool, have the consistent color scheme of the Tzeentch troops. 45 melee attack with weapon or flame attacks and magic attacks, 75 leadership, 100 armor, just pretty well-rounded stats. But more importantly, guys, they do have this ward save, which is just so juicy. And these are one of the units you guys haven't seen yet in the mod. This is more of a Chaos Undivided type unit. They're called the Fallen Knights of Chaos. So basically like a little bit better than not Knights of the Realm, but like Empire Knights. So just a cool looking unit. These guys are just awesome looking. But anyways, aside from that, those are most of the forces of Tzeentch. They do also have a Gorby's Chariot, but look here over on the far side, guys. So he was able to use that Infernal Gateway, which basically just annihilated these troops. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was supposed to summon Chaos Bomb, but I don't recall. I should probably read the tooltip again. In here, we do have the forces of Balthazar Gelt, who's flying over, surveying his troops, making sure they're ready to handle the horrors that are coming their way. So we do have the Flagellants here in the gate, and guys, it is going to be a bloodbath. On the far side of the city, we do have the forces of Nurgle who have rushed the gate. You can see some aspiring champions here, some Nurgles afflicted, which are basically these just infected, putrid zombie-type units. They do regenerate, which is really cool. So they're basically like zombie mobs or peasant mobs, but they come in 150 models, have almost 10,000 HP. Their stats are really bad, like horrible, but they do regenerate. They're going to be backed up by some Plague Bearers of Nurgle, who are basically, you know, they use the same models of trolls, but they act like demons. So demons kind of work in the same way that undead do, that they don't rout, but they do crumble, and they have leadership issues in that respect. So they have a ward save, they're immune to vigor, they have poison attacks as well, and they're definitely going to be very tough to deal with. So these Plague Bearers of Nurgle are going to be leading Nurgles Afflicted into this southwest gate against this contingent of Empire soldiers who are ready to accept their charge here. Over here, we have more Nurgle troops who are going to be breaking in from the southeast gate. So you can see here, we do have the Warriors of Nurgle who have already engaged. And let's go ahead and let the battle begin, guys. So these Warriors of Nurgle have engaged. You can see the Plague Reapers of Nurgle in the back, which are the elite troops, and the Standard Warriors of Nurgle, which are just pushing the streets. And they're going to be led by a Chaos Lord of Nurgle, who has this excellent, outstanding splash damage. So the Nurgle champions, as well as the Plague Lord of Nurgle, or the Lord of Nurgle, have two abilities. They have like an AoE blast ability. They also have Swarm of Flies, and you can see he's about to use this blast, which is just going to do massive damage. You can see that gaseous explosion coming down from one of the champions of Nurgle on the far side, and it's very, very strong in these tight street fights. Over here, up on the north, let's go ahead and take a look at the Tzeentch forces who have engaged at the main gate. So you can see the cultists have slammed into these flagellants right here. So it's going to be a pretty even battle for the most part, but they do have a very nice foothold here. And also in the back, they do have a ton of troops and auxiliaries. So you can see the fire magic of Tzeentch blasting through, hitting those greatswords, doing some heavy, heavy work. So I'm not sure how long these Empire forces are going to be able to hold. They're down to about 78 models right now, and they're already shaken. These cultists and these Lords of Tzeentch, not Lords, excuse me, but the champions of Tzeentch doing some massive damage in the front line, using their AoE and their massive halberds to just cleave these guys. Over on the north side of the gate, we do have the reinforcements of Archaon the Ever-Chosen, who have found an opening in the gate. They have some Huskarls, so there's a lot of new unique units added in this mod for kind of the Norskin style unit. So Huskarls are basically like Chaos Warriors for the Norskin troop theme. So they have 80 armor, they also have shields. On top of that, they have pretty decent combat stats across the board. He does also have some Warriors of Khorne, and these guys are just awesome. They have extremely high melee attack of 56, and on top of that, they have 48 weapon strength and pretty good charge bonus, and they also do have Frenzy. So some of the Khorne units do have Endless Frenzy. On top of that, they are going to have a Champion of Khorne right here, which is basically, you know, kind of the Khorne equivalent of like an Empire Captain, and these guys have some awesome abilities. They have Kill, Maim, Burn, which gives them 50% on all their combat stats for quite some time. They also have Endless Frenzy, so basically Frenzy that never expires. So guys, the battle is indeed underway in the city. You can see some of the forces here of Archaon, these Chaos Cultists, and these Followers of Slaughter, which are kind of like Khorne cultists themselves with their great weapons, are advancing on the city, looking to come flank the forces of Balthazar Gelt on the far side. So over here, the Warriors of Tzeentch are pressuring this gate really aggressively, and the Empire forces are starting to become very, very tattered here. And you can see some of these greatswords and auxiliary are going to be pulling in, but they have been kind of run into by some of these cultists over here. So literally just fighting has erupted in the streets of Altdorf, and guys, it is just looking to be an absolutely wild, close fight. Over here, you can see some of these handgunners are gunning down a lot of these cultists, and they are in full retreat. So if we go to the far side of the city, the forces of Nurgle are continuing to fight. You can see they were able to defeat those defenders in the street. Over here, there still are some Imperial forces that are fighting off against some of the Hounds, but when that Chaos Lord of Nurgle, as well as his legion of Nurgle Knights push through here, it's going to be a very, very tough proposition. Over here, you can see some of the Plague Reapers of Nurgle with their anti-infantry and their poison are taking out an Empire Captain as well. So it looks like Volkmar the Grim is using his banishment, but it doesn't quite hit them right on the head. They also do have Light Wizards in the alley, some additional greatswords and auxiliary that are just kind of waiting here, and they're definitely going to be good. So the forces of Nurgle are just chasing these guys down. You can see that Nurgle blast, the stream of corruption coming through and just absolutely annihilating those halberds. So it looks like almost to be a full rout on this southwest corner or southeast corner of the map, and these Empire forces are definitely not having a good time. Over here on the southwest gate, we do have the forces of the Empire. They also have a Templehof Luminarch and some Knights of the Blazing Sun, which are doing exceptionally well. And you can see this Lord of Nurgle, excuse me, the Champion of Nurgle has been completely surrounded. The Plague Bearers and the other troops are just being lanced down by the Knights of the Blazing Sun. We're just charging in here and destroying these cultists. So over here, the forces of the Empire have proved victorious. That Templehof doing a very, very good job, especially when supported by Volkmar the Grim, who's basically just riding down these forces of Nurgle, just trampling them, sending them back to the Void, or the Warp, I should say, not the Void. So they're definitely getting sent back to the Warp over here. You can see that Warrior Priest on the back just smacking them as he makes his departure, probably realizing that they've indeed had enough and they're going to rout from the city. Over here on the north, the forces of Tzeentch are continuing to just fight a tooth and nail battle, although Sartorial the Everwatcher has taken a lot of damage. He's getting a lot of focus fire, but these aspiring champions have pushed through the gate, and you can see these Demogryph Knights look to have done a pretty good job, although I believe there has been some sort of a hex. The Infernal Gateway has hit these Demogryph Knights, and it is going to suck the life force from them. These aspiring champions are fighting against some of these greatswords, but the greatswords will have a very good matchup here because they have heavy armor-piercing damage. Over here, you can see some of the cultists and the flagellants have engaged with one another, so a very thematic matchup. You have the extremists of both Chaos and Empire going toe-to-toe. And we do still have fighting at the gate. So you can see Balthazar Gelt has landed. He's going to fight these champions of Tzeentch right here who have been blasting him, but it looks like Balthazar is able to just run him over on his way out. So he's going to pull out, taking advantage of his speed, and he's definitely going to get away. But the bringers of Change, as well as the warriors of Tzeentch have pushed through the gate. You can see the Empire captains are forced to retreat as all of these very elite Tzeentch troops have pushed through. It is just looking like a tide of chaos, and the desperate defenders here in the street, these great swords as well as Balthazar Gelt, are all trying to put up the best fight they possibly can. You can see these handgunners are taking some pretty good pot shots over here on these guys, and it is looking very, very wild. But unfortunately, the forces of Archaon have finally reached the center of the city. You can see over here, they're starting to advance and chase down some of these troops in the back. You can see the Everchosen himself doing a little bit of vanguard work. It looks like he did indeed chase off some of those guys. There is a Hellblaster volley gun, which is setting up in the streets, and it's probably going to start teeing off on some of these Chaos troops that are pushing down. And they do also have some halberds, as well as a second Hellblaster volley gun, which hopefully will start firing here in just a moment against these troops. So I think a lot of them are hidden in the trees right now. Down on the south side of the city, we do have the forces of Nurgle, which have continued to advance. Karl Franz is here. He's being enveloped by the pestilent Nurgle forces, and these guys are just going to engage against the secondary line of greatswords, which are just holding the southern bridge. So this Lord of Nurgle is in very, very good health, and he is just a force to be reckoned with, dealing massive, massive damage with his 62 melee attack and 456 weapon strength. But a lot of the Nurgle troops, guys, in this mod, they also have anti-infantry, which kind of makes sense because they're applying poison. They're doing a lot of things that would be good against like smaller type units. So you can see that blast, that putrescent blast going through and just ravaging these great swords, and also that gaseous explosion doing some serious work. Karl Franz, I'm not sure where he went right now. I see the great swords are still here, but Karl Franz may have done a tactical retreat. But guys, we have another engagement, a whole nother group of great swords coming to reinforce their brethren right here. They're going to get a great armor-piercing charge on these Plague Reapers of Nurgle, and definitely will do some very good damage. So these great swords are a pretty good counter to these type of units, as a lot of the lower tier units definitely suffer against the kind of the gaseous explosions and things like that. So the greatswords charge into the streets, just doing massive shock damage to these Plague Reapers of Nurgle as they come in, and these aspiring champions. You can see this Chaos Sword also doing a very, very good job there. Over here on the north streets, you can see Archaon the Everchosen and his Huskarls are advancing through the forest. They're being led by these warriors of Khorne, who, when they get to the main battle, are definitely going to aid their brethren, because the Empire forces focused a lot of their resources on stopping Nurgle in the south, and they left a relatively small contingent up here in the north to deal with Archaon and Tzeentch. So the Tzeentch warriors are pushing through, taking a lot of handgunner fire, and you can also see the Demogryph Knights coming in, the Royal Altdorf Griffites coming to the defense of their city, and they're just going to charge head on into these aspiring champions, as well as these Bringers of Change. Definitely going to do some heavy, heavy damage. And you can also see these Knights of the Blazing Sun putting up a great fight, definitely going on a bit of a crusade here, you could say. So they're going to fight, but they have pretty good combat stats in terms of sustained fighting. They have 40 melee attack, 42 melee or weapon strength, and a charge bonus of 76, which is massive. Unfortunately, these Bringers of Change, if I'm not mistaken, do have an anti-large bonus, so they're going to perform quite well. Over here, you can see the Empire Captain in the back is still trying to hold the gates, but a lot of these Tzeentch Knights have pushed in and do have him pretty well surrounded. There is still a pretty heavy, not heavy, but somewhat healthy Empire force here. You can see these Demogryph Knights who did get the Infernal Gateway cast on them, still fighting against some of these warriors of Tzeentch over here who are in very good health. And it's going to be tough to get through that ward save of 30%, guys. But the Royal Altdorf Griffites got a great charge, did some heavy damage, and you can see the forces of Tzeentch here are starting to get very, very tattered, guys. So, if this Empire force is able to at least do a little bit of damage and maybe do a bit of a tactical retreat, they could hopefully, kind of reconvene with their forces in the south and go from there. So it looks like there is a Flame Blast being cast right here, a Flame Vortex. I believe it is a different version of the traditional fire spell being cast here on these Knights of the Blazing Sun. But I wonder if they actually, for a second I was like, I wonder if they have fire resist, but I don't think they do. But Balthazar Gelt is somewhat surrounded. You can see these champions and warriors of Tzeentch are going after him right here, and he is just in a very, very dangerous situation. He does appear to cast a Transmutation of Lead on all of these troops before he goes down, but man, he is surrounded and is taking a ton of damage. You can also see that Tzeentch magic is going to be targeting him, and he might not be able to get away from this, guys. But he is retreating into the handgunner fire, and you can see the Templehof Luminarch from the far side actually snipes one of those Tzeentch heroes and is able to rescue Balthazar Gelt, who is able to take to the sky once more. And the Tzeentch magic is continuing to try and blast him out of the skies, and you can see it's coming for him, and it's going to hit him, and the mighty Balthazar Gelt does fall, and his forces are most likely going to retreat after that. So we look in the south, though, things are looking a lot better for the Empire. They do have guns in the street, which are doing a ton of damage. The Nurgle forces are in a bit of a 2v1 down here, because you can see Volkmar as well as Karl Franz forces are down here. So right now, I'm just chasing these guys around, trying to finish off their leadership, but Karl Franz is doing a great job just kiting these guys around, coming in and striking whenever he can. And he also does have this Tempelhof Luminarch, which has just been blasting these Chaos Warriors into the Shadow Realm, into the Warp, with its 91 kills right now this early in the battle. So Mighty Warrior Priest is going to charge in here and just make a sacrifice for his Emperor, and they do get a great Nets of Amnentok. So that Warrior Priest definitely blocked those guys up, but he is in a dangerous situation right now. You can also see some Demogryph Knights coming in from over here, going to take advantage of these guys being netted down, and are definitely going to get a very, very good charge. So the balance of power is very heavily in the Chaos favor right now, but guys, if you guys do end up playing the Ultimate Chaos mod, just take note that the balance of power isn't necessarily accurate, because the power levels of some of the units is not quite accurate to the original vanilla unit, so it's really hard to measure that. But you can see the Demogryph Knights getting an excellent charge in here into these Warriors of Nurgle, just doing some great disruption, and their forces are getting really tattered. You can also see additional forces. These Outriders over here are resisting some of these Greatswords, and are definitely going to be able to work these forces of Nurgle down, who do have physical resist, so against Greatswords and, just traditional infantry, they're going to be pretty strong. But still, guys, they are not immune to attrition, and they're getting worn down just by the sheer numbers of these Greatswords and this handgunner fire in the streets. So Karl Franz is doing a bit of a tactical retreat, as well as the Demogryph Knights. They definitely do not want to get mucked up by these pestilent forces of Nurgle. They're kind of just waiting for those handgunners to get in position, the Free Company Militia, as well as the Tempelhof Luminarch. In the north, you can see Archaon the Ever-Chosen and the forces of the End Times have come over here, and these units are very cool. These are called Chosen Swordmasters. So they're basically like these chosen, modified chosen infantry who have anti-infantry and armor piercing. I really hope they add something like this when they eventually do a Chaos expansion. So the forces of Archaon the Ever-Chosen are routing a lot of these Empire forces who are being pushed through the street. You can also see the champions of Khorne and the infantry of Khorne are pushing in, so the Undivided forces have finally collapsed, and it looks like the last bastion of the Empire in the northern part of the city has fallen. You can also see these Bringers of Change are just routing these Empire forces, and these Chosen Swordmasters are not going to allow any of these Empire forces to escape across the bridge. So very, very dire situation for the Empire in the north. Granted, in the south, it is looking a lot better. You can see the forces of Nurgle in the south are very, very thin, and they're being collapsed on from a multitude of different angles. Over here, you can see these Greatswords have racked up 18 kills, which isn't bad against Nurgle forces, who are very resilient. Also here on the far side, you can see some of these Outriders have been engaged by this Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle, who does have the Nurgle magic. And but here, we're kind of getting kited around. You can see these Free Company Militia are shooting a lot of these guys down, just doming them right in the face to these aspiring champions. So I'm not sure how much longer they're going to be able to last, but hopefully they can get in there and, disrupt this firing line, because there's still 60 models there, which is a lot. That's a lot of firepower. So Karl Franz is kind of sitting here defending his Tempelhof Luminarch. Then the Royal Altdorf Griffites are very, very worn down from sustained combat. They're now at 8 models, and these Warriors of Nurgle are just relentless, just pushing through the city, just doing massive damage. But it looks like there is another net coming down. So the net of Amnentok has kind of trapped these Warriors of Nurgle again, and is buying time for their other Empire allies across the city. So you can see some Empire captains from the north are coming in to assist against the Nurgle forces. We also have the Royal Altdorf Griffites, another group of 12 who are coming to the south. So the Nurgle forces are just going to get overwhelmed by the unified forces of the Empire here, who appear to be looking to make a last stand here at this, it looks to be an altar of Sigmar, which is so cool thematically speaking. In the north, you can see that the forces of Archaon the Ever-Chosen are coming. Sarthoriel the Everwatcher has fallen in combat. Unfortunately, I didn't get to show you guys that, but he has fallen. This Champion of Khorne as well is going to be pushing in, and he has racked up 57 kills right now, so definitely doing some killing, some maiming, and some burning. In the Imperial City, the northern end has fallen to the Warriors of Chaos, and things are looking pretty grim. Some Flagellants over here are putting up a bit of a last stand. They're going to have the support of some Greatswords who are going to engage on these Warriors of Tzeentch, who have racked up 34 kills. They do have the flame damage and the ward save, but they will not do terribly well against the armor piercing these great swords. So a bit of a resistance in the north side of the city, and you can also see more Empire forces are coming back. So there's some spearmen, a lot of action going on here, but it looks like Archaon is ignoring these guys, and the forces of Chaos are moving across the bridge, which is going to be very, very tough. They're trying to reinforce the forces of Nurgle on the far side, who are very in a bad situation, just getting surrounded, taking a ton of damage. So let's go ahead and see how the Champion of Nurgle and the Lord of Nurgle are doing down here. So the last bastion of the Nurgle forces, the Plague Reapers right here with their scythes, are pushing around, trying to take out any troops they can, but they have been getting netted by the Light Wizard as well as the Nets of Amnentok, and you can also see the 2 Empire captains are sitting up in the air and just kind of like vultures right now, just waiting for them to get charged, and it is looking very, very grim for these Nurgle forces. We do have Knights of the Blazing Sun over here. We also have the Tempelhof Luminarch, which is looking to blast in, and it just does massive damage, tearing apart those Plague Reapers, and also getting some very, very good damage on that Lord of Nurgle. Looks like another net of Amnentok coming down. The Knights of the Blazing Sun are in position, guys, and they're just going to do a time prime sandwich. So you can see the Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in, these Empire captains coming in, and we also do have some infantry. The Free Company militia are also over there, and Volkmar the Grim. So guys, this is not going to be good. So those Empire captains come in and get a very, very good rear charge. These Knights of the Blazing Sun, though there's not many of them, are going to get a great charge. You can see that a Nurgle Blast does launch forward, but doesn't do a bunch of damage, and these Knights of the Blazing Sun are definitely going to start triggering some serious leadership issues, guys. So it's looking very, very bad for this force. Right now, the Nurgle forces are just trying to hold on until the Everchosen can come to their aid. Unfortunately, Sarthoriel, the Everwatcher, is not going to be there. But more Knights of the Blazing Sun do come out of nowhere with some of these Royal Altdorf Griffites. So just an epic charge from the Empire, just coming to crush these pestilent forces and finally put them out of their misery. But you can see the Nurgle forces are not going to go down without a fight. They do drop a pestilent gaseous explosion, which is going to do a ton of damage to all of these troops, but it looks like the Nurgle forces have been completely shattered. The Nurgle Lord is pretty much surrounded, and he's not going to be able to, you know, probably fight off Volkmar the Grim here, who's definitely very, very angry about his forces getting routed earlier. And you can see the Royal Altdorf Griffites pushing through a Grand Soulfire bombardment. And guys, this has the makings of a glorious last stand. So you can see some handgunners are here, some flagellants, and some more handgunners also setting up in the streets. And Karl Franz is setting up a defensive force to intercept the forces of the Everchosen, who are advancing from the north. So guys, we're going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit while these guys posture up here for the final last stand. So the forces of Nurgle have been destroyed. The Chaos Lord of Nurgle has been killed, and right now it is Karl Franz versus not Volkmar. I was going to say Karl Franz versus Volkmar, but it's going to be Karl Franz versus the forces of Archaon the Everchosen. So guys, this is it. The Huskarls and these Norscan troops are going to lead the charge, being the fodder for the forces of Chaos. So they're going to charge in there. They're taking all that handgunner fire, which is great because they are shielded and do have a silver shield. You can also see another net of Amnitok coming down. So a very, very good net play from the Empire forces, which is allowing them to do some pretty massive damage to these Chaos forces. But guys, you can see that these chosen Swordmasters are coming in with their anti-infantry, and they also do have another buff here. So let's go ahead and see what that is. I think that is the Crown of Domination. So that's from having Archaon nearby, the Lord of the End Times. There are also some Tzeentch forces still. There's a Champion of Khorne coming, as well as some Tattered Warriors of Khorne. Well, I was going to say Tattered, but they actually have 60. I'm not sure the rest of their models. Oh, they actually pushed ahead, so they were able to split up for some reason. But guys, you can see that Templehof Luminar blasting some of these Chaos forces as they try and push in. You can see Karl Franz has taken hold up here on the altar and is going to be shouting commands to his troops, trying to lead them to victory in this desperate last stand. But you can see the Lord of the End Times charging forward with eyes blazing. Definitely going to have no mercy on these forces, guys. And this is just looking to be insane. So the Royal Altdorf Griffites are still here with 18 models. And you can also see Archaon is somewhat low, guys. So it's definitely not looking good. Looks like some sort of magic is being targeted. Some Tzeentch magic is shooting up at Karl Franz, but it does miss. And you can see this brave Empire captain coming after the Lord of the End Times, but he is going to be intercepted by these chosen Swordmasters. So the fighting has erupted in the street. You can see these Huskarls have engaged some of these spearmen and the Free Company militia. The Inspiring Champions are pushing in, but you can see the Royal Altdorf Griffites going for a bit of a flanking maneuver right here. And it looks like they're going to push through and maybe go after the Lord of the End Times, who has engaged this Empire captain. And that captain is definitely not having a good time. Archaon, in this particular mod, guys, has some unique abilities. So he actually has a bunch of Tzeentch spells, because he is kind of the, you know, the proverbial Lord of the End Times. He has a bunch of different magic abilities and unique abilities that have been added with the Ultimate Chaos mod. So the fighting in the streets has erupted. The Warriors of Khorne are pushing forward. You can see these chosen Swordmasters are preparing for the final push over here. And with their anti-infantry bonus, these guys are basically like chosen that not only have armor piercing, but they do have an anti-infantry bonus. So they're just these massive imposing forces of chaos which are pushing through. You can see these Free Company militia putting up a desperate last stand in the street, but it is not looking good, guys. They are being collapsed. These halberdiers, though, are, you know, still in good shape, and they do have the support of Volkmar the Grim. So Volkmar is not alone. But guys, we have a final showdown between the forces of the Empire and the forces of Chaos on the staircase. So Archaon the Everchosen has accepted a duel with Karl Franz up on the altar, and guys, they are going to fight to the death for the fate of the Empire and for the fate of the old world. So Archaon the Everchosen is getting some great attacks, and you can see he's very low, but so is Karl Franz, 839 HP to about 1400. You can see some of these handgunners coming up here to try and aid their Emperor. 839 HP. This is just incredibly close. And guys, you have to note that Karl Franz does have heavier armor piercing than Archaon. So in the blink of an eye, this battle could turn. You can see Volkmar the Grim using his banishment in the fighting in the streets, and another net of Amnitok, guys. But man, this is just a close fight. 338 HP. The leadership of Archaon is actually lower. So he's at 43 compared to that of, well, Karl Franz has dropped down to 23. But guys, this is looking very, very grim for the Emperor. Karl Franz is definitely probably not gonna be able to pull this one out, but let us go ahead and find out. So Archaon getting another attack, and he does fell Karl Franz. And guys, this is looking very grim, but Volkmar the Grim, unwavering in his resolve, is charging around the streets. He's definitely going to do his best to avenge the Emperor. As you can see, these forces of Khorne and Nurgle, well, not Nurgle, but forces of Khorne and Tzeentch are going to push through the streets and collapse on the last bastion of these Empire troops. And Volkmar the Grim is definitely not going quietly into this good night. You can see he's riding through the streets, trying to reinforce his troops as best as he can, but it's looking very grim. Some chosen swordmasters over here. We do have some bringers of change in the back, as well as some warriors of Tzeentch. So you can see this this champion of Khorne does attempt to ride down Volkmar or charge Volkmar, but unfortunately he does get run over and left in the dirt. Volkmar is definitely, he's below me, but Volkmar is just riding around, getting some great rear charges, just being a true hero of the Empire. But let's go ahead and take an overarching look at what's left. You can see some Tzeentch magic also targeting Volkmar. So right now we have the Temple off Luminarch. We also have some Free Company militia, some Flagellants, of course, fighting to the bitter end, and Volkmar the Grim is surrounded for the most part. So guys, we're going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit here as the last forces of the Empire do put up a desperate last stand here against the forces of Chaos. And it looks like Archaon the Ever-Chosen is being chased down by the Royal Altdorf Griffites, who are trying to avenge their Emperor. And you can also see Volkmar the Grim is getting some great attacks on him. Granted, when he is on the chariot, he's not as good as like single target damage. He's better at dealing like charges, more like a chariot. So Archaon the Ever-Chosen is able to slip away from the grasp of the Royal Altdorf Griffites, who are just fighting this horde and tide of Chaos troops, Khorne troops, Tzeentch troops. Even a few Nurgle troops have retreated, have come back from their retreat, and are here to help finish the day. So right now, another banishment coming down on these troops, and you can see the forces over here are chasing Volkmar the Grim as he just rides them down with his chariot, and the Tzeentch magic is just blasting him right in the face. 148 kills on this guy. He's done some serious work, and he is definitely not happy about his Emperor having fallen. But what a thematic ending. You can see Archaon the Ever-Chosen just standing up here on the war altar next to the corpse of his nemesis, Karl Franz, over here, who definitely put up a great fight. Put a very, very good fight, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that battle. Man, that was super fun, just long. And, there was times where it looked like the Empire might have been able to come back in that last stand. Like if Archaon had lost that duel to Karl Franz, they might have been able to pull some magic out, because a lot of the Empire forces did rout to leadership issues, and it looks like the mighty Volkmar has fallen. So guys, thank you for watching that. Hopefully you enjoyed that. So you can see the Nurgle forces did some pretty good work. Those Plague Reapers racking up a ton of kills. The Warriors of Nurgle took a beating, as well as my Cultists, and of course the Afflicted did not do too well. The Plague Reapers were able to be smited by Balthazar Gelt on that side of the gate. Over here, the Gobbo King leading the Tzeentch army. The champions of Tzeentch did very well. The Bringers of Change underperformed a little bit, but the Warriors of Tzeentch did very, very good. And you can see Italian Spartacus leading the Undivided army of Archaon the Ever-Chosen. Definitely some cool stuff. I really like the Huskarls, and the Chosen Swordmasters were just so cool and resilient with armor-piercing and anti-infantry. You can see the forces of Balthazar Gelt with the Royal Altdorf Griffites across the board doing well. Black Iron, I wish I had gotten some eyes on those Hellblaster volley guns. It's one of my regrets from that game. But over here, Nevada with his troops. Nevada 2217 with Volkmar the Grim just fighting to the bitter end and doing his best to avenge the Emperor. So guys, thank you all for joining me for this game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this thematic battle. And if you'd like to see some more battles like this, let me know if you guys have any suggestions you'd like to see. But we have some Chaos Dwarf gameplay coming up. So we're going to be doing some Chaos Dwarf slave revolts. We're going to be doing Chaos Dwarfs versus the regular Dawi, which is going to be very fun. So guys, thanks again for joining me. Have an excellent night and take care.